The sun was setting over Earth, casting a warm golden light over the bustling cities and quiet towns. It was a day like any other, or so it seemed. President Elena Harris sat in her office, surrounded by her closest advisors, discussing the future of humanity's place in the galaxy. It had been years since Earth had decided to stay out of the galactic wars, focusing on peace, technology, and growing its own civilization. The president was proud of her people, proud of their progress. But today would change everything. No one saw it coming, as the news broke across the screens worldwide. A chilling silence swept across the globe. President Harris had been assassinated. The message was clear. The galaxy had grown tired of humanity's peaceful ways. The assassination had been carefully planned, executed with precision, and left no trace of who was behind it. The broadcast showed nothing but the cold, lifeless body of the leader, who had always been a symbol of hope and unity. The world stood still for a moment, unsure of how to react. Then, something unexpected happened. The grief and shock that filled Earth's leaders soon transformed into something else, a fire, a rage that spread like wildfire. People flooded the streets, their faces a mix of disbelief and anger. How could this happen? Who did this? What do we do now? Were the questions that echoed from city to city. The anger grew, and soon the world's leaders knew what had to be done. This was not a time for mourning. It was time for action. The death of President Harris had awakened something deep inside humanity. For centuries, Earth had kept to itself, not daring to engage in the conflicts of the galaxy. Now, they realized that the galaxy didn't care about their peace. They were nothing but pawns in a game they never asked to play. In the war rooms, military leaders and strategists gathered in urgent meetings. They knew that Earth was no longer safe. The galaxy had made its move, and it was clear that if humanity was going to survive, they had to be ready to fight. But they weren't just fighting for survival, they were fighting for revenge. Humanity's anger turned into determination. The time for talk was over. Earth would no longer be a passive player in the galactic stage. It was time to show the galaxy what humanity was truly capable of. The first step was to rebuild the military, to create a force strong enough to face whatever came next. Secret research facilities began working on a new kind of warship, one that could challenge the largest fleets in the galaxy. The humans were no longer weak and defenseless. They had a strength they had never realized before. Among the people, a sense of unity emerged. The death of their leader had struck a deep chord with every man, woman, and child on Earth. They didn't care who was behind it, they just wanted justice. Earth would make sure that the galaxy would never underestimate humanity again. In the days that followed, the search for answers began. Who was responsible for this brutal act? Some speculated it was one of the galactic empires who had grown tired of Earth's neutrality. Others believed that the galaxy's more dangerous species were behind it, hoping to break the human spirit. But no matter the enemy, humans knew one thing for sure: their time had come. As Earth's leaders worked to prepare for war, the people were ready to do whatever it took. They were no longer the peaceful planet they once were. They had tasted the bitter sting of betrayal, and now humanity was ready to unleash its fury on those who thought they could destroy them. The world stood at a crossroads. The galaxy had struck first, but Earth was not going to let this stand. No longer would humanity be pushed aside. Earth would fight back. They would show the galaxy that the death of their leader would not be in vain. The future was uncertain. But one thing was clear: humanity's fury was about to be unleashed, and no one was prepared for what would come next. The days after President Harris's death were a blur of grief, anger, and the determination to act. Earth's leaders knew they couldn't sit back and allow their people's sorrow to be exploited. As the world struggled to cope with the loss, something else began to rise within humanity, a fierce resolve that no one had expected. The government called for an emergency meeting with the world's military leaders. This was no longer about defending the planet. It was about sending a message to the galaxy. Earth was not to be underestimated. No longer would humanity sit idly by while powerful galactic empires dictated their fate. The first steps toward vengeance had to be taken now, for the galaxy thought it could destroy them without consequence. Within days, military operations began in secret, far away from the watchful eyes of the galactic powers. Hidden underground facilities, once used for peaceful projects, were repurposed for war. The brightest minds on Earth, scientists and engineers who had never worked on military projects before, were now tasked with building something that could match the might of the galaxy's greatest fleets. The plan was clear. They would create a warship like no other, a vessel that could strike fear into even the largest alien empires. The ship would be more than just a weapon. It would be a symbol of humanity's strength and defiance. They named it Vengeance. The design of Vengeance was unlike any other warship. The ship's hull was reinforced with materials that could withstand attacks from advanced alien weapons. Its engines were capable of moving at faster than light speeds, making it nearly impossible to track. But it was the weaponry that would make the Vengeance truly feared. Powerful plasma cannons, missile systems capable of destroying entire fleets in seconds, and defensive shields that could block even the most devastating attacks. The Vengeance was humanity's answer to the galaxy's cruelty, and it was about to set sail, but the Vengeance was only part of the plan. Humanity's fury had spread across the globe, and there was no turning back. People everywhere were joining the cause. Young men and women who had never thought of themselves as soldiers were now training day and night to become part of this new force. They were driven not only by revenge, but by the desire to protect their world and their families. The news spread like wildfire. Human soldiers were deployed to infiltrate alien territories, gather information, and sabotage key installations. These missions were higher risk, but humanity had something the galaxy didn't: the drive to do whatever it took. Nothing was off limits. Every human who stepped into the battlefield knew what was at stake, and they fought with a determination that no enemy could have predicted. In every corner of Earth, the streets were filled with the sound of people organizing. Volunteers signed up, ready to become part of something bigger than themselves. They would no longer be passive observers in the galaxy. They would be active players. The Vengeance would lead them, and they would follow. Ready to avenge their fallen leader, the world's governments worked together in unity, no longer divided by politics or borders. The death of President Harris had united Earth in a way that no one could have imagined. The soldiers preparing for war were not just from one country or one continent. They were from every corner of Earth. They were a united force, standing tall and strong in the face of the unknown. As the days turned into weeks, the construction of the Vengeance continued, and the first fleets of human ships began to take shape. It wasn't just the military forces working tirelessly on the new ships. Civilians, engineers, and experts from every field pitched in. Were all part of this monumental effort. The world had come together, and the galaxy had no idea what was coming. The Vengeance was nearing completion. The ship's first test flight was scheduled, and the crew selected to man it was ready. The soldiers, chosen for their experience and courage, were prepared to make history. As the ship lifted off from the launch pad, the world watched in awe. Humanity had built something that could rival the most advanced fleets in the galaxy. But this was just the beginning. The Vengeance would not only be humanity's tool of revenge, would be a declaration to the galaxy. Earth was no longer weak. Earth was no longer afraid. The war for humanity's survival was about to begin, and no one would be safe from the fury that was coming their way. The Vengeance was no longer just a ship. It was a symbol. Humanity's fury, once a quiet undercurrent, was now a roaring storm. As the ship sailed through the stars, its presence alone was enough to send shockwaves across the galaxy. Most powerful alien fleets were left in disbelief. They had thought that humanity was weak, that Earth's peaceful nature made them an easy target. But they were wrong. The Vengeance had completed its first test flight successfully. But it wasn't just the ship that had changed. The crew aboard it was unlike any other. They were soldiers, engineers, and civilians who had volunteered, driven not by the desire for glory, but by the desire for justice. They knew what the galaxy had done to Earth, and they were ready to make the galaxy pay. In the war rooms back on Earth, military leaders were preparing the next phase of their plan. The Vengeance wasn't just a ship, was the first step toward a larger mission. Humanity had learned to defend itself, but now it was time to go on the offense. With the Vengeance leading the charge, they would strike at alien strongholds, take down enemy ships, and show the galaxy what humanity was capable of. No longer would they cower in fear. They would fight with everything they had across the galaxy. Alien species began to take notice. They had underestimated humanity before, and now they were seeing the consequences of that mistake. A series of well-coordinated strikes began. The Vengeance and its crew hit their first target, a heavily guarded alien communications center on a distant planet. The mission was dangerous, but the humans carried it out with precision. In a matter of hours, the center was destroyed, and the message was sent. Earth had entered the war, and it was not afraid to strike. Other alien races, who had previously thought of humanity as a weak species, now scrambled to respond. They sent their ships to investigate, to find out who had dared to challenge them. What they didn't know was that Earth was ready. Humanity's forces had been quietly preparing for this moment, gathering strength and resources. The Vengeance wasn't the only powerful ship humanity had built. The Earth's military had secretly constructed smaller, faster ships, perfect for hit-and-run tactics. These ships, equipped with advanced weapons and shields, were sent on missions to cripple the alien fleets. Soon, a pattern emerged. Earth's forces were everywhere. No alien fleet was safe. The Vengeance led a series of raids that took down shipyards, military bases, and strategic defense points. Humanity's strikes were swift, brutal, and highly effective. The galaxy began to understand that Earth was no longer the quiet planet it once was. It had become a force that would not be ignored. As the attacks continued, Earth's people rallied behind the Vengeance. News of the ship's success spread quickly, and more humans joined the fight. Entire cities became hubs for recruitment, training, and preparation. People who had never thought they'd be part of a war were now on the front lines, ready to defend their homes and their families. The sense of unity was stronger than ever. Every human on Earth knew that their survival depended on their ability to work together. They were fighting not only for revenge, but for a future where they would never again be treated as insignificant. The alien forces began to panic. They had not expected the humans to be so organized, so relentless. They had underestimated the depth of humanity's anger and the strength of their resolve. The galaxy had made a mistake, and now it was paying the price. In their desperate attempt to stop the human attacks, the alien forces began to send their own fleets to Earth, but they soon realized that it was too late. The Vengeance and its allies were stronger than they had anticipated. Every time they tried to strike back, the humans were there, ready to fight with everything they had. The Vengeance had become the heart of humanity's fury, and it was only growing stronger. The galaxy was beginning to understand that when Earth was pushed too far, it would not just fight back, it would strike with everything it had. With a fury that no one could match, as the battles raged on, the crew aboard the Vengeance felt something more than just the weight of revenge. They felt a deep responsibility. They knew that every strike they made, every battle they won, was not just for the president who had been killed, but for every person on Earth. Humanity had been tested, and now it was proving its strength. The galaxy had no idea what it had unleashed, but humanity was determined to show them. The Vengeance led the charge, and Earth's fury spread like wildfire. No alien force, no matter how powerful, could stop what was coming. Humanity was on the warpath, and there was nothing that would stand in their way. The galaxy had never seen anything like this before. Humanity, once thought weak and insignificant, was now a force to be reckoned with. The Vengeance had made its mark, and Earth's fury was being felt across the stars. The alien fleets, once confident in their superiority, were now scrambling to defend their territories from the relentless attacks of humanity's new military might. As the Vengeance and its allied ships tore through enemy lines, Earth's forces expanded their reach. They weren't just targeting military bases or shipyards anymore, they were going after the heart of the alien empires. The first major battle occurred in the outer rim of the galaxy, where a coalition of alien races had set up a massive defense system. The humans were outnumbered, but they had something the aliens didn't: unity and determination. The battle began with a barrage of plasma blasts, the Vengeance leading the charge. Its powerful cannons cut through the alien shields like butter, and the smaller human ships, designed for speed and agility, darted in and out, striking quickly before retreating. The aliens fought back fiercely, but it was clear that they were no match for the humans' coordination and drive. Earth's military had learned quickly, adapting to the alien tactics and improving their own. What had started as a battle for revenge had turned into a battle for survival. Back on Earth, the news of each victory spread like wildfire. The people of Earth, once fearful of the galaxy's might, were now filled with pride. They had been underestimated, but they had proven themselves capable of standing toe-to-toe with the most powerful species in the galaxy. Every victory, every alien ship destroyed, was a testament to humanity's strength and resilience. The alien leaders, however, were not willing to give up easily. The war had become a matter of pride, and they were determined to crush humanity's uprising before it could spread further. More fleets were dispatched, each one larger and more powerful than the last. They thought that with enough ships, they could overwhelm Earth's forces, but they underestimated the human spirit once again. As the war raged on, Earth's forces grew stronger. The Vengeance became a symbol of humanity's defiance, and its crew was celebrated as heroes. The soldiers aboard it, however, didn't see themselves as heroes. They saw themselves as survivors, had one mission: to ensure that humanity would never again be at the mercy of the galaxy. Each member of the crew knew that they were fighting not just for revenge, but for the future of their species. One of the crew members, Commander Jason Blake, stood on the bridge of the Vengeance during the heart of one of the most intense battles. His eyes were focused, his mind sharp. He knew that they had to win this battle, or humanity's chance for survival would be lost. As the alien ships advanced, Blake gave the order: "All units, prepare for the final strike. Let's show them what humanity is made of." The Vengeance and the fleet launched their final attack. The battle was chaotic, with explosions lighting up the dark void of space. The aliens tried to regroup, but it was too late. The humans were relentless. Each ship that fell to the Vengeance was another victory in a war that had cost humanity so much already. The crew of the Vengeance fought with everything they had, knowing that the stakes had never been higher. After hours of fierce fighting, the alien forces were finally driven back. The humans had won. The aliens who had once mocked humanity as a weak species were now retreating, nursing their wounds. For the first time in the war, the humans could take a breath. They had survived, and they had shown the galaxy that humanity was not to be underestimated. As the Vengeance returned to Earth, its crew was greeted as heroes. But there was no time for celebration. The war was far from over. The aliens would regroup and come again, and the humans had to be ready. But for now, Earth had proven something important: that humanity was not just a bystander in the galaxy, but a force that could stand up for itself. The battle for survival had been won, but the war was far from finished. Humanity had come a long way since the death of President Harris. It turned their grief into fury and their fury into action. The Vengeance had shown the galaxy what humanity could do when pushed to its limit. The galaxy may have underestimated them, but humanity had shown that it would never be easy to defeat. As Earth prepared for the next phase of the war, people knew that they could no longer rely on others to protect them. They would have to fight, and they would fight with everything they had. The galaxy had unleashed humanity's fury, and now it would have to face the consequences. The war had changed everything. What began as a quest for revenge had turned into a battle for Earth's very survival. The Vengeance and its crew, along with the brave soldiers and civilians from Earth, had proven that humanity was no longer a species to be ignored. Their strength, unity, and unwavering determination had pushed the galaxy to its limits. But the real battle wasn't over yet. It was only the beginning of a new era for humanity. After the victory in the Outer Rim, where the alien fleets were finally driven back, the humans took a moment to regroup. The war had taken its toll on Everyone, soldiers, civilians, and leaders alike. Earth had lost many, and the scars of the conflict would remain for generations to come. But despite the losses, there was a sense of pride among the people. They had survived, and they had won. Their leader, President Harris, may have been taken from them, but her spirit lived on in every person who had fought for Earth's survival. Humanity's victory was celebrated across Earth. The streets were filled with cheers and loud celebrations. For the first time in a long while, Earth's people felt free from the threats that had hung over them for so long. They had struck back at the galaxy's oppressors, and they had made their mark. The galaxy would no longer look at Earth with disdain. Humanity had proven that they were strong, capable, and ready to fight for their place in the stars. But Earth's leaders knew that the war wasn't truly over. The alien forces were still out there, and they would be back. Humanity couldn't afford to let its guard down. The leaders gathered in the war rooms once more, strategizing on what came next. They knew that they had to prepare for the long road ahead. The vengeance had given them the power to strike, but they would need more than one ship to ensure that humanity could stand on equal footing with the galaxy's mightiest powers. As Earth's military began rebuilding, alliances were formed with other human factions scattered across the galaxy. The survivors of Earth's colonies, who had been watching the events unfold from their distant planets, now rallied to join the cause. Together, they would form a new galactic force strong enough to protect humanity's future. The vengeance was still humanity's symbol, but now there were more ships, more soldiers, and more resolve. Each new ship that was built, each new recruit who joined the fight, was a reminder that humanity was no longer a passive species. The galaxy had forced humanity into a corner, and now it would have to face the consequences of underestimating Earth. Humanity's triumph was not just a military victory. It was a statement. The galaxy had killed their leader, but they had failed to kill the spirit of humanity. Earth had survived the greatest threat it had ever faced, and now it was poised to shape its own future. No longer would Earth sit in the shadows of the galaxy's great empires. No longer would it be a planet to be ignored or pushed around. Humanity had earned its place in the stars. It would fight to keep it. The alien forces, once confident in their superiority, were now uncertain. They had seen what humanity could do when pushed to the edge. Vengeance had taken down their fleets, crippled their strongholds, and shattered their pride. The galaxy's most powerful races now understood that humanity would no longer be a passive observer. It would fight. It would win. As the leaders of the galaxy watched from the sidelines, they realized something important. The balance of power had shifted. Earth had risen from the ashes of its grief, and it had emerged stronger than anyone had ever imagined. The galaxy had always thought of humanity as weak, but now they knew the truth. Humanity was strong, resilient, and capable of great things. The future was uncertain, but humanity was ready. Earth was not just a home to billions of people. It was a new force in the galaxy. The Vengeance and its crew had proven that when Earth's back was against the wall, humanity would rise up and fight. Now, with their new alliances, their new fleet, and their newfound strength, humanity stood on the brink of something great. The galaxy would never forget the day humanity rose from the shadows. They had underestimated Earth, and now they would have to live with the consequences. Humanity was no longer the weak, defenseless species they once were. They were a power to be reckoned with, and the galaxy would never be the same again as the Vengeance sailed through the stars. Its crew stood proud, knowing that they had changed the course of history. Humanity had survived the greatest test it had ever faced, and now, with strength and courage, it would move forward, ready to take its place among the stars.